After the disastrous debate between President Biden and convicted felon Donald Trump, MAGA's victory lap may very well be premature, with bad news for Trump in the form of new polling and a devastating fundraising report from none other than the Fox Propaganda Network. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video, but I want to start, as usual, with the Fox Propaganda Network. I've got two clips for you back to back. It's always fun to watch Fox reluctantly report on bad news for Trump and good news for Biden. And I recognize that those of us in the Democratic coalition need some good news, need to boost morale. This should help do the trick.
New fundraising numbers just in from the Biden campaign. They raised $14 million on debate day and the morning after. They say the hour right after the debate was their single best hour of fundraising since they launched the campaign last year.
Love Stuart Varney there, that last expression there, like he's exasperated. He's like, how could this possibly be? $14 million after that debate? Their best fundraising hour yet? How could that possibly be? And that is good news for Biden, much needed good news for Biden, and bad news for Trump. But wait, there's more.
We are getting some breaking news here. New fundraising numbers show last night's showdown between former President Trump and President Biden did not scare away donors on either side. According to the Trump campaign, the former president raised $8 million yesterday. And meanwhile, according to the Biden-Harris campaign, Biden raised $14 million between yesterday and this morning.
So, folks, nearly twice as much money raised by the Biden campaign compared to Trump. Nearly twice as much money. Here's the thing. If you recall, the fundraising advantage was held by the Biden campaign for much of this election cycle. And then after Trump's criminal conviction back in May, he raked in a ton of money and he closed that fundraising gap. And now it seems that there's at least the possibility that Biden will yet again pull ahead in that score. That's bad news for Trump because, again, this election remains pretty tight and we actually have recent polling to confirm it. So these are polls after the debate. Okay, after this debate, you have Survey USA have Trump up by 1. The Morning Consult has Biden up by 1. Then Data for Progress compares Biden and Trump compared to, Trump compared to other candidates. But if you look at the bottom there, Data for Progress, Biden is up by 3. And then Legger by the New York Post, which is a right-wing outlet, they have Trump up by 7. So it's a mixed bag. The fact that it's a mixed bag, given the coverage surrounding this debate, which is apocalyptic for Biden, it's grading Trump on a curve for the reasons that we talked about in my postmortem analysis of the debate, which is that greater expectations are imposed on the Democrats always, not just by right-wing media, but yes, left-wing media and mainstream media. And so more coverage is given to Biden's gaffes, Biden's stumbles, Biden's very poor performance compared to Donald Trump's very poor performance and his constant stream of lies. It's just a media ecosystem which unfortunately advantages Trump, and you and I have to do everything in our power to try to break that. These candidates should be held to the same standard. They've both been president. They both want to be president in terms of their integrity, in terms of their competence, in terms of their ability to answer questions directly and honestly. Areas, those in particular, in which Trump lags way behind Biden. They're not given a fraction of the coverage. And yet the polls which come out show a mixed bag. Again, that's bad news for Donald Trump. Okay. It also shows that there's little advantage for people who could potentially replace Joe Biden if that's what people want. I know there's a lot of commentary about should President Biden drop out or not. And this is part of the reason why I have not called for it, even though I perfectly understand the conversation and I don't fault anyone for having it. If I were in the Biden camp or the Biden White House, privately, that conversation would be had. I'd be like, listen, if we really believe that Trump is the threat to democracy, this is a conversation worth repeatedly revisiting, especially when there's failure at critical moments like that debate. But as I've also mentioned, Gavin Newsom, J.D. Pritzker, Gretchen Whitmer, Josh Shapiro, Vice President Harris, they're not actually performing better against Trump in the polls compared to Biden. And they never have, which is part of the reason why, again, like it or not, Biden, according to the polls, according to record, is probably the better choice. He is risky, but it seems right now, based on the data we have, even riskier to replace him with somebody else. Ipsos, another reputable pollster, The way they describe it is Biden lost the debate, but Trump didn't win. A majority of likely voters who watched the first debate felt that Trump performed the best, according to a two-wave 538 Ipsos poll of likely voters conducted in the days leading up to and immediately after the debate. Even so, less than half of these debate watchers felt that Trump's performance was good or excellent. The poll also finds the belief in President Biden's mental and physical fitness to be president slightly declined after the debate, particularly among Democrats. However, in spite of Biden's low rate of performance, many likely voters report that they're still likely to consider voting for Biden. Again, that's bad news for Trump. Logan Phillips talked about this as well. While debate watchers clearly felt that Biden lost, the impact on their voting intentions was minimal. USA Today they went out and spoke to swing state voters. And again, certainly not great news for Biden, but we expected that given his performance, given the coverage of the performance. The real, kind of scandal in all this for Trump is that he didn't do better. He is not persuading swing voters nearly to the extent that he needs to win the election. Again, Rachel Bitecofer, a political scientist that hopefully I'll be interviewing in the next couple of days. Again, she emphasizes that calls to replace Biden have to confront the data that, based on what we have at our disposal, none of the alternatives would fare any better. And that brings me to a final clip I want to play. So the debate was Thursday. On Friday, President Biden was in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he gave a very good speech. He looked better. He sounded better. He was more energetic. We're not going to play the whole thing, but I do want to play a 2-minute section here in which Biden actually addresses the debate and his poor performance, and he acknowledges it. So we're going to play the clip, and we'll unpack it together on the other end.
Let me close with this. I know I'm not a young man. State the obvious. Well, I know. Well, I don't. Folks, I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up. I know what it took to take our economy from the depths of the pandemic to where it is today, the strongest economy in the world. I know what it'll take to bring this economy to everybody. I know what it'll take to rally the world, to stand up against Putin and defend freedom, not yield to him. And I know what it'll take to keep the world safe and free for the years ahead. Folks, I give you my word as a Biden, I would not be running again if I didn't believe with all my heart and soul I can do this job. Because quite frankly, the stakes are too high.
So again, that was a pretty good speech. Again, it was a 2-minute excerpt of a very good speech in Raleigh, North Carolina. Listen, a couple of things. This, again, overall, the theme of this video is that there is some good news for Biden with respect to polling and fundraising. Could be transient, could be permanent. I'm not sure. I like the fact that President Biden acknowledged he did a poor job in the debate, and he did, right? We don't sugarcoat it here. I also like that from his vantage point, he's like, I take this seriously. I recognize the stakes. I would not be here if I didn't think in my sincerest beliefs that I could do the job. Now, again, I don't doubt that President Biden can do the job of being president. He has. I think he has been a very good president, particularly compared to competition and certainly in modern history. Of course, the question is, can he be a good candidate? Two different skill sets. And I think the jury's out on that. Right now the polls are neck and neck. Donald Trump has usually been leading in the polls, but not always. but it's 4 months away from the election, and we have time to course correct. But even though I am not calling for Biden to be replaced, and one of the reasons I haven't done that is because I just don't see a clear path for an alternative. It seems like any of the alternative paths for a better candidate are riskier because there doesn't seem to be a better candidate based on the polling, based on the primary. I digress. I appreciate that the conversation is being had. But at the end of the day, go back to where I started. President Biden, on his very worst day, is a better president, a better person, a better human being than Donald Trump on his very best day. Donald Trump is an idiot. He is a moron, according to many members of his own cabinet. According to our own eyes and ears, we've never heard Donald Trump substantively speak about policy, even in the debate. He did not perform well, right? Again, the hyperfixation on Biden is clouding out the fact that Donald Trump did not perform well. He did not substantively answer questions. Usually he didn't even answer questions. When he was asked a new question, he would revisit the old question to try to get the last word in. And at the end of the day, I will support the Democratic nominee, Joe Biden or not Joe Biden, over Donald Trump, period, because the Republican Party is an authoritarian cult of personality with no limiting principle, and I will not lose sight of that. And to the extent that President Biden remains our candidate, there is still, even now, good news in the form of fundraising from that report from the Fox Propaganda Network and recent polls. Let me know what you think in the comments.